It's Wednesday, the 8th of February. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and we have the final report on the loss of a Aero Commander bird dog back in August of 2021 in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. This is a classic case study of human factors, normalization of deviance, and the perception of risk, especially in the low-level firefighting environment. This accident got our attention because it was an aircraft very commonly used in aerial firefighting as a bird dog aircraft. They call it up in Canada, down in Australia. It's often called a lead plane or an air attack plane here in the States. It's the aircraft that's used to carry the firefighting personnel overhead the fire and help direct the air show over the fire. And it's also often used as a lead plane for a low-level lead drop to lead the tankers in on the drops for air tanker runs. The Aero Commander 690 is widely used for this job. But it turns out there was nothing wrong with the aircraft. Just one little issue on the elevator trim tab we'll get into. Pilot error. And let me give you a little background story on this. Find this old picture here. I was training up to be a U.S. Forest Service lead plane pilot, flying the Beech Barons for the Forest Service, and we were training up to do low-level lead plane flying. And you get over the risk of this low-level flying very quickly, and you soon become complacent about your risk level in low-level flying. One little story I can remember is that in the back of the Baron here, first off, you're down in the smoke-filled canyons. It's bumpy as heck. You're bouncing your head off of the roof of the cabin. Your headset's flying off. You got to reel it back in from the back seat. But also in the back seat is a cooler with drinks and sandwiches. And so there you are flying along the ridge tops at 150 feet, right at blue line airspeed in the Baron here, a turbocharged, pressurized Baron, casually eating a sandwich, talking to on 3 different radios to tankers inbound and to ground crew on the ground, and then the Forest Service dispatch, eating your sandwich and raising your wing up and over dead snags as you do your job flying this low-level aircraft. You begin to lose track of just how risky this job can be. Now on to the report. I don't mean to throw you off with the reference to the elevator trim tab cable. This accident was a case of pilot error. History of the occurrence flight. On 16 August 2021, a MAG Aerospace Canada Corporation Rockwell International Aero Commander 690B was conducting a bird dog flight as Bird Dog 160 in VFR rules at Thunder Bay Airport, Ontario. With only the pilot on board, this was the pilot's 3rd flight of the day. The aircraft had been refueled and was to be flown to the operator's facility for maintenance. The occurrence pilot taxied the aircraft to runway 12, then held short, and ATC instructed the pilot to line up on runway 12. At 21:06:31, ATC cleared an incoming aircraft to land on runway 25. Before the aircraft landed, the occurrence pilot and the pilot of the incoming aircraft had a brief and informal discussion over the ATC frequency. After the incoming aircraft landed, ATC instructed that aircraft, the landing aircraft, to exit at taxiway Delta. That's down here. At 21:09:17, the occurrence pilot was cleared for takeoff with the option of either a left or right turnout. The aircraft began its takeoff at 21:09:22, and immediately after rotation, it entered a climbing left turn. When it was approximately 45 feet above the ground, the aircraft entered a rapid roll to the left. At 21:09:50, the aircraft struck the surface of runway 07 in an inverted attitude. The pilot was fatally injured. The aircraft was destroyed by impact and post-impact fire. The ELT was set off. The occurrence flight was captured by a video camera mounted on the tower there, or on the Emergency Response Operations Center at the airport. They have not yet released that video, as far as I know. It's not in this report. So the aircraft was parked here, taxied out, taxiway Foxtrot, back taxied on runway 12, and departed after the arriving aircraft came in on runway 25 and cleared down here at Delta. Previous flights. The occurrence pilot's previous 2 previous flights of the day were also captured by the video camera mounted on the Emergency Operations Center. The first flight departed Thunder Bay at 1:13 with the pilot and 1 forestry air attack officer on board. Immediately after takeoff on runway 12, the pilot made a low-level, steep turn to the left, coming within approximately 200 feet of the tower, so that he would be cutting just like this, right in front of the tower, cutting right through here. The second flight departed Thunder Bay at approximately 6 p.m. with the pilot and the same forestry air attack officer on board. Immediately after takeoff on runway 12, the pilot made another low-level, steep turn to the left, similar to the turn on the first flight. However, this time the pilot flew behind the control tower, coming within 600 feet of it. So this time he went like this. So the pilot is ATP rated, 2,600 hours total time, 230 hours in the Aero Commander, and his recency of experience right there. He was hired in February of the same year, 2021, so he'd been with the company for less than a year, MAG Canada, and had done all the required courses and check rides. Information on the air traffic controllers here. Information on the aircraft, the 260B with about 7,620 hours total time on the airframe. They talk a little bit about the trim system here because they found some frayed cables on the elevator trim cable, but were not a factor according to this report. A failed elevator trim cable was found on site and was sent to the TSB Engineering Lab for inspection. The elevator trim was found to be, the trim tab was found to be in the approximate position for a normal takeoff, so it was in the correct position. Analysis of the failed elevator trim cable revealed that most of the wires that comprised the cable had failed before the impact as a result of excessive wear. The remaining wires of this cable failed in tensile ductile overload, like this. However, due to excessive fire damage, it could not be determined whether the remaining wires of the trim cable failed before impact or as a result of the impact. An inspection of the occurrence aircraft seat rails was inconclusive due to fire damage, and an inspection of the pilot's seat pin engagement lock did not reveal any pre-impact anomalies. One of the problems in these airplanes is if your seat comes unlocked on takeoff while you're accelerating, you'll slide back, and you generally tend to pull the yoke back with you and can potentially stall the aircraft. Now let's get into the communication with the tower on the day of this accident. So this is flight number 1, just before takeoff at 1:12 in the afternoon. Controller 1, Bird Dog 160, tower lineup, runway 12, backtrack if required. Occurrence pilot, lineup 12, taking the backtrack, Bird Dog 160. Remember, he's coming out Foxtrot and he has to back taxi to the beginning of runway 12. At 13:12, Controller 1, Bird Dog 160, left turn on course, winds 190 at 10, gusting 15, cleared takeoff, runway 12. Occurrence pilot, cleared takeoff, 12, left turn on course, Bird Dog 160, thanks. Shortly after takeoff, Controller 1 says, that was fantastic. Moments later, Controller 1 says, thanks for the little show. Occurrence pilot, I can get closer if you like. Controller 1, sure. All right, here comes flight number 2 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Occurrence pilot, Thunder Bay Tower, Bird Dog at Foxtrot, Controller 2 in training. Now this is a different controller. Bird Dog 160 from Foxtrot, backtrack, runway 12, backtrack as required. Occurrence pilot, lineup 12 and it'll be a left-hand turnout. Controller 2 in training. Bird Dog 160, tower winds 180 at 14, cleared takeoff, runway 12, left turn on course. Occurrence pilot, cleared takeoff 12, left turn on course, Bird Dog 160. Occurrence pilot, get your camera ready if you like. Controller 2 in training, sure, will do. Occurrence pilot, do you want me north or south of the tower? Controller 2 in training, your choice, I got the camera ready. Occurrence pilot, all right, we'll go south. So he's going to go fly around the backside of the tower for a low pass camera pass. Controller 2 in training, Bird Dog Tower, thanks for the show. Next time I want to be on board. Occurrence pilot, be careful what you wish for. Somebody once named this thing the Barf Dog instead of the Bird Dog. Controller 2 chuckles, I know. All right, flight number 3, the Occurrence flight. 9 p.m., Occurrence pilot. And Tower, Bird Dog 160 coming up Foxtrot, ready when able. Controller 2 in training. Bird Dog 160 from Foxtrot, back to track as required. Line up runway 12. Line up 12, Bird Dog 160. Controller 2 in training. Bird Dog 160, Tower, left or right turn on departure. Your choice, winds 190 at 6, cleared for takeoff, runway 12. Cleared takeoff, and I'll do a left turn out again, Bird Dog 160. Roger. And then the accident occurs. Remember, at this time, the pilot was by himself. As soon as he rotated, he yanked it into that hard left turn, got himself in an accelerated stall right on departure, rolled inverted, and crashed. We just talked about accelerated stalls and got that dramatic graphic on the 414 crash in Modesto. Remember, an aircraft can stall at any airspeed, but only one critical angle of attack. And as you increase the bank and pull G's on the aircraft, you are increasing the demand on the wings for lift, and the stall speed increases in a turn. Accelerated stall. The report goes on to talk about risk, like we talked about at the beginning of this video, a real-life example. Accelerated stalls. Analysis. Finding as to the causes and contributing factors. After takeoff from runway 12 at Thunder Bay, as the pilot conducted a rapid low-level climbing steep turn, the aircraft entered an accelerated stall that resulted in a loss of control and subsequent collision with the terrain. Pilot decision-making and risk perception. The decision to conduct the rapid low-level climbing steep turn was likely influenced by an altered perception of risk from previous similar takeoffs that did not result in any adverse consequences. Normalization of deviance, reduction of risk perception. Findings as to risk. If air traffic controllers engage in communications that may be perceived by pilots to encourage unusual flight maneuvers, it's the old hold my beer, watch this, hey, I dare you to do this kind of thing. Pilots may perceive this encouragement as confirmation that the maneuvers are acceptable to perform, increasing the risk of an accident. Yeah, especially if these affirmations come from air traffic controllers or supposedly people in charge. Findings as to risk. If NAV Canada's, that's their ATC program up there, reporting procedures do not contain specific criteria for situations where air traffic services personnel perceive aircraft to be conducting unsafe flight maneuvers, there's a risk that these maneuvers will continue and result in an accident. So how do you report the rogue pilot? How do you report if somebody is continuously doing something unsafe? And this is something we all got to watch out for at all of our own local airports. The rogue pilot. The rogue pilot, that's, remember Bud? Stand by one. Let me find this. Yeah, remember Bud Holland, perceived himself to be the world's greatest B-52 pilot, auguring in the B-52 in very dramatic fashion in an accelerated stall at Fairchild Air Force Base in 1994. Classic case of human factors. To their credit, MAG Aerospace Canada jumped on this and did a number of changes right away. MAG Aerospace, of course, is the contractor that has these Bird Dog contracts, located right here online. Following the occurrence, MAG Aerospace Canada took the following safety actions. 18 August, they inspected all of their pilot seat locking mechanisms, because that could have certainly led up to an accident similar to this. On 19 August, they issued a memo reminding pilots to ensure that the seat lock is positively engaged. On 21 August, they suspended all flight operations and held a company-wide safety stand-down meeting that was attended by all employees, and safety topics included MAG Canada's safety policy, compliance with standard operating procedures and safe practices, normalization of deviance and acceptance of unsafe procedures, the need for eradication of a cowboy or hot dog culture in the aviation community. reiteration of the company's anonymous non-punitive safety reporting program, and a refresher on how to submit an anonymous hazardous report. Good job, MAG Canada. A company-wide safety stand-down. They obviously got word of the conversation on the ATC tapes with the control tower right away after this accident. On 28 August, they issued a memo implementing enhanced training procedures for an engine failure on takeoff roll during the most critical phase of flight. They invited the Safety Management Systems Director of its U.S. affiliate, MAG Aero, to conduct an audit of its safety management system. The audit included a review of the company's SMS as well as interviews with key personnel. No significant or non-compliant findings were found. They updated its CRM, crew resource management training materials, to include more information on managing stress and external-internal pressures, as well as normalization of deviance. Issued an amendment to its company ops memo. The amendment included a new section on day VFR flight rules, minimum altitudes and distances, and permissible low-altitude flight to reiterate the regulations. And on 30 November, issued an in-house service bulletin to inspect all trim cables and pulleys on their Twin Commander 690 aircraft. That's the elevator trim. The inspections are to be completed by borescope camera because it's low visibility. It's hard to see back there. So once again, showing off for the camera or showing off for your friends kills another pilot. It's something perhaps all of us have done a little bit before in the past. It's something we all need to be very aware of. And if you see a pilot exhibiting unsafe practices consistently over and over again, it's upon all of us to bring it to that pilot's attention and try to persuade him to stop the unsafe practices. Thanks so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.